So one of the things that I wanted to add in, I want to have a smooth scrolling down whenever one of these buttons gets clicked. And another thing that I want to add in is that I want to slide this menu back up whenever it gets clicked. So those are the two things that are still missing in our interaction. And let's add that in, and I promise it's going to be really straightforward with jQuery. And I'm not getting into too much detail with jQuery, so we just need enough to be able to provide our functionality. So this one, I'm going to get rid of that function, and we're going to use the click event again. And remember how with with CSS we identify the elements, so we do the same thing here with jQuery. So if I want to identify a class, nav class, list item, the anchor text, and I want to create a click function here. So whenever it gets clicked, I want to trigger off an event. And I'll just show you really quickly what we can see here. So I'm going to use console log in order to demonstrate what information is being passed here from the event. So let's go back out into our web page and just show you what happens now. So whenever, still need to shrink this one down. So now once we shrink it down so we can get our actual menu here, click the menu and we can see that within the console, so I can shut some of this stuff down here. And the console is a way to communicate back and forth information for developers from your web page. So when I click it, I get a whole bunch of information here getting presented. This again is the DOM that's in action here where we see all of this information. So whenever we click, we get tons of information here. And we're going to utilize some of this information. And the really neat thing about it is that it actually picks up information from the item that I clicked. So we get things like we've got our mouse event, we've got our X and Y coordinates, we've got a current target. So we see that it's going to, I pressed the base URI, so I've got some attributes there as well, and so on. So I've got some really nice information here that I can utilize within my logic when I'm applying it to my web code. And the reason I'm showing you all of this is because we do have the ability to pick up the target. So whatever item I'm clicking here, I'm actually able to pick up that target information. So let's jump back into our code here, and I'll show you how we can pick that up. So there is an event. So with jQuery, we can use an object. We can access an object. So the current live object is under this. So we have ability to select the attribute, and we can get the href attribute out of the element. So basically what's happening here, so I'll refresh it again to show you what's happening. And this is where the console is really useful because it gives us this ability to see. So we can see, even when the menu is large, that we can see which anchor or which URL we're trying to access. And we can pick that up. And the really neat thing about this is now I can use that as a target value and move the entire web page to that particular target. So now I'm picking that information up, and this is already contained within that element because JavaScript, jQuery, smart enough to know whatever I'm clicking and passing over information. So going with all of this information, now we're ready to actually move the web page. And we do have the ability to move the web page to wherever we want, but one thing we do need to figure out is where it's located. So let's set up some variables, and variables are a way to hold values. So this is our target. So this is our target section. So I'm going to just name it as that. Instead of passing it into the console, I'm going to use the variable target section to contain that information. And now within jQuery, I can access this as an object. So I can do the same thing, $, and keep that information in there. And I can check to see how far off the top it is by using offset. So it gets the current coordinates of the first element or set of coordinates of the first element in the set. Basically what that means is I can return back my x coordinate or my y coordinate of where we're positioned at. So what's happening here, and I'm just going to finish this off and talk a little bit more about it. So this is going to give me a value of where that particular section is located. So whenever I click it, I can see that I get the actual coordinate position of the section, wherever it's located. So it doesn't really matter which section is present. These values are always going to be the same. So I know that if I go on my web page, if I go to 1108, I'm going to be presented with the About Me section. If I go to 8, then I'm presented with the home page. And the way that this is working, remember again that we had our heading information contained 100 picks, so that was down, so it was moved down. And we've got some padding around there, so that's adding in another 8 there, or 4 and 4. And then on top of it, we added in each section was 1,000 picks height. When you mathematically add all of this together, we can determine what position the web page or that URL is at. So now we know where we want to scroll our web page to. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the upcoming lesson.